bark softly tales, dreamy summer bites, flashes of horror and suspense. Bite back at the fear.
Simply Wicked by Mav Sky. It was not an evil doll. Definitely, absolutely not evil. It was simply wicked. Jane nodded the gangly elf's head up and down in agreement. They both wore matching black and white checkers, sewn special by Grandma. Jane in a dress, the elf in pants. Grandma had given her a good tongue lashing earlier about how she, Jane, definitely, absolutely was not evil, but simply wicked. Wicked is smidgens away from evil, and if you're evil, you go to hell. Wicked was the elf's secret name, the name Jane called him when no one else was around, and they played together in the closet in the back of Grandma's hallway. Here is another secret that happened in the closet when it was especially dark and nobody knew. Wicked spoke to her. Not out loud. No, that would be crazy. But in her head, he told her all sorts of things. Some of the secrets weren't wicked at all. Like putting on extra underwear before you get a spanking so it doesn't hurt so bad. Mostly, though, the things he told Jane were wicked. Yes, sir. She found that out when she told Grandma about the things that she had heard. And that is how she got into trouble with the whole wicked evil business in the first place. She carried Wicked with her everywhere she went. Yesterday, she had gone to the lake with all of her ugly boy cousins. The biggest one, Guy, had yanked Wicked out of her arms and thrown him in the water. "He's drowning, Guy. He'll die." Jane had screamed at him. She had spent a half hour holding her breath, plugging her nose, and looking underneath the shallow water for Wicked. When she finally found him, she squeezed him tight, trying not to cry. Later, when Grandma wasn't paying attention, Jane and Wicked slipped off to the closet together. Jane wiped her tears away as she whispered to the elf, "Wicked, I don't ever want you to die. Not never." The doll, still damp from his plunge, whispered back, "Dying isn't so bad, Jane. Sinking in the water feels good. Sometimes you feel a pinch in your chest, but then it goes away." "But Grandma says if I die, I could almost go to hell. So I better not die," she said. "Oh, silly Jane. Your Grandma doesn't want you to know. She doesn't want you to know that you won't die. There is no hell. You'll just live different, and you'll get to know more stuff." I'd like to know more stuff," Jane replied. "Listen close, Jane, and I will tell you what your Grandma doesn't want you to know." Jane leaned in close and watched the sharp, angled face of the doll. The elf was so still, so silent, yet she heard his gentle, wicked words in her mind, telling her what she needed to do. "Jane, time for the lake," Grandma called to her. The ugly boy cousins came over again. She scrambled out of the closet and into her bathing suit just in time to catch up with the boys and Grandma. Jane clutched Wicked tight in her trembling arms as Grandma herded them down to the lake. Sweat tickled down the back of her neck. She felt so scared, but so brave. She knew things that adults knew, and she was going to find out about things that even her Grandma didn't know. Jane stood at the edge of the pond, forcing a fake whine as Guy taunted her about Wicked. She let her arms go limp when Guy took the doll away and threw it out in the deepest part of the lake. "Come on, crybaby, go and get your baby toy." She nodded her head solemnly. "Okay." Guy laughed and elbowed another cousin in the arm. When Jane didn't scream or cry, he dove off and disappeared into the lake. "Wicked, where are you?" she called out. Jane began to wade through the water. It covered her thighs, her hips, and now was up to her chest. "Wicked, tell me where you are." "Jane? Jane! Who in the devil's name are you talking to?" Jane looked back at Grandma. The sun glistened off her silvery gray hair, and her eyes looked as deep and blue as the water. Concern filled her face, and that made Jane feel special. But she knew what would make her even feel more special. "Don't worry, there isn't a hell, Grandma," she called back. Grandma's face puckered funny. "Jane, come back here." Jane shook her head and looked down into the water. "Wicked, where are you? I want to be with you when I go to the other place." She held her nose and plunged into the lake. Jane swam slow motion to the bottom, feeling for Wicked's soft, stuffed limbs. She touched rocks, branches, slimy things, but not her doll. Jane began to lose her breath, but she needed Wicked to help her be brave. She pushed her feet off the bottom and surfaced, gasping for air. "Jane? Guy, go get Jane!" Grandma screamed. She heard Guy laughing at her. "Grandma, I told you, she's just looking for that stupid doll." Jane swam further out into the lake. Yes, this is where he was. She could feel it. "Please, Wicked, speak to me. I can't do this without you. Speak to me and tell me where you are." Jane heard the Wicked whispers inside her mind, and she dove straight down to the bottom. She felt along the lake's floor and found his soft hand reaching for her. She grabbed it and sat Indian style in the murky, squishy mud. Her breath escaped her, and at first, Jane didn't think it was so bad. But then the pinching, the horrible pinching began in her chest. It hurt. It hurt way more than Wicked had told her. He lied. Wicked had lied. Up, she tried to pull up to the surface, but the tiny elf hand held her down. She kicked and tried to scream, and that is when her lungs filled. A moment later, Jane relaxed, and Wicked let her go.
Who likes dark stories? People who have experienced a touch of the dark side. People who are a little wiser to the world. People who like their bones chilled and their spines tingled. People like you and me. It's hard to find a story these days that write on the dark side with a touch of whimsy, humor, and heart. Mavsky spreads her dark wings and solves this problem for you. Head on over to Amazon and type Mavsky's name into the search engine. Mavskye. At Amazon, you'll find her Tales to Chill Your Bones series, Girl Clown Hatchet series, Supergirl series, her cult classic novel, Wanted Single Rose, and of course, her brand new release, Cold Hangs the Midnight. Choose your dark flavor and head on over to Amazon today.